everything that I know. Says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am. This is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to crawl. I'm not the one with two star hands. Giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
Yes, everybody, we're back. This is Eddie Huff with Dave Van Risingham. You're listening to Fresh Black Coffee, and I say this every week, but this time I truly mean it. I'm going to allow Dave to introduce our special guest of the week.
I'm really excited. Not only is this a candidate running for public office, but he's really been one of the expert consultants on property and taxation issues across the nation. Introduce yourself, Byron.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm Byron Burke. I'm a property tax consultant and a candidate for Tulsa County Assessor.
Mm-hmm. This is great. And not only is he running here locally in the Tulsa County race, but you're going to be addressing issues that affect everybody in every county. And I think what the topics we're going to talk about is going to inform everybody on the choices they need to make in their local county races. So you've worked in the assessor's office. Tell us about it.
Well, 1974, graduated from Oklahoma University, a degree in business, major area of study was appraisal.
Yeah.
And came to work in the Tulsa County Assessor's office for several years. Mm-hmm. And started measuring and inspecting homes and moved into commercial real estate. Eventually served as the assessor's assistant.
Did you get shot at when you're out?
We got chased by a few dogs. I did spend some time on top of my car one day.
Yeah. And then you hung out your shingle in your own business.
I did. Working at the county, I observed that people just weren't being represented in valuation issues, tax protests. Mm-hmm. My last job with the county, I had been working for the Equalization Board, and I would go out on all the appeals and listen to taxpayers' issues about their value, try to resolve them. Mm-hmm. And just in doing that, realize that there might be a need for a consultant to represent different taxpayers. Right. So I did. I hung out a shingle and started a practice in, I think, 79.
Gotcha.
And it grew over the years.
To multi-states, didn't it?
Well, it did. I was real fortunate in the Safeway stores was a big grocery company who had locally back then.
Yes.
And they hired me, and I did some work for them locally. And it was they liked the work I did. Eventually, I had the Little Rock division, the Oklahoma City division.
Gotcha.
And I was still kind of a one-man show, and it was wearing me out.
Okay, so the big corporate community members were looking to you to help them out.
Yes.
Make sure they're in compliance and no more than they needed to pay.
Yeah, they wanted to pay their fair share.
All right.
But when you're a multi-location company, and you're located in multiple states, someone has to manage that. It's a major expense for companies, but we also represent a lot of homeowners and in the process.
Sure. Now, Oklahoma, as I'm sure you're well aware, is probably the lowest property tax state, or very close, right, to the lowest.
If you count the Panhandle and western Oklahoma and some of the real rural districts in the state, you get low. But when I work all over the country and I look at Tulsa and Oklahoma County and a few other counties, I mean, they're not that low in comparison. On a per capita basis, Oklahoma is a low tax state.
But wait a minute. We passed some major reforms in like the late 90s that was supposed to fix that, make it equal. Why are you saying it's not equal?
Oh, no, it's the farthest thing from that. And it's really the reason I'm running. I mean, the Oklahoma Constitution requires that the taxes be uniform on the same class of subjects.
If I may. So what power do you have on a local level to make our property taxes lower than anybody else's?
Is
it county run? I mean, is it?
Yes.
Oh, so you as an individual have the authority or the ability to regulate what the rate of property tax is?
Well, there's a formula.
Okay.
And maybe it would be easy to understand if we talked about the formula to arrive at your tax bill.
But I mean, the process though, the actual, for better, way of saying it is there not some legislative process, or is that's what I'm trying to get at. Does it have to be approved by the city council, the county, the county, what do you call commissioners? Yeah, thank you. Does it county or state representatives, anything like that? Or who has the final say on let's say you go back and you do your formula, which we'll get to in a second. I want to find it, because this is good stuff, people. I mean, this is really, so once you get your formula squared away and we figure out what the proper equitable formula should be, then, who actually finally has to approve this to put it into effect?
Well, the Tulsa County Assessor, all assessors in Oklahoma are supposed to value property based on the value of the property on January 1 of each year. So if you have a completed property, it should be picked up and valued if it's new. And all the property in the county subject to reappraisal. Yeah. So the standard is the fair market value, but in Oklahoma, it's the market value as used.
Okay. When you say complete a project, you mean they got their certificate of occupancy in most cases.
Yes, yeah.
So in the permitting process, which I've often joked as just fair notice at come get me, because that's typically what tells you your workload for sending assessors out or appraisers out.
That's correct.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. So there are some things that state government has done to try to bring balance and equity across the state. But from what you're saying, a lot of the way that it was written kind of slow walk to getting there, right?
Well, it is. And let me just give you an analogy to try to understand the way the ad valorem tax system works in Oklahoma. If you were to walk over to Quick Trip and you were to pick up a couple of
donuts,
a couple of pops, a couple of bags of chips, and you guys had the exact same items, and you walk up to check out, and really what you owed Quick Trip, both of you need to pay them $6. Yeah. Well, if they charged you $9, charged you $3, you wouldn't think it was very fair.
Right.
That's a pretty accurate reflection of the way ad valorem taxes are working in Tulsa and in Oklahoma right now.
Okay, now that's a pretty radical analogy. Is it really that bad on property tax?
You can have homes sitting side by side that are of similar value, same neighborhood, similar location, and one of them can be paying double what the other one's paying.
In taxes?
Yes.
Wow.
Now, how is newsflash? You heard it here first. How is that happening?
Well, if
what formula are they using?
Well, if you're a new homeowner, let's just say, you recall when you bought your first house, you scrimped, you saved, you got your down payment together. Yeah. You made your down payment, you bought a home, and then, you want to spend some money fixing it up. Well, at the same time that you bought that home, if that home was on the tax roll for $100,000 because they had not been keeping the values current, and you pay $200, the following year they're going to put you on for $200. And if your neighbors around you are still at that $100 figure, then you're going to be double them. So welcome to being a homeowner. Your taxes just double. Yeah. I spent 5 years chairing the excise board, the equalization board at Tulsa County. Yeah. And I can tell you that there were a lot of people who came before us that weren't really aware that the law was going to affect them the way it did. Yeah. And it was a budget buster for people. Yeah. And there's some terms I still don't know, at my age. Ad valorem. Simple terms means property tax in most cases. At value. According to value. So that's a Latin word, means at value. That's right. Okay.
And that's what you're talking about. Yeah, and that value is just pulled out of a hat. For a new homeowner, it's one value, and for an existing homeowner, it's a different value.
Yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned a county committee you're talking about, was it, or excise? I was chairman of the Excise Equalization Board at Tulsa County for 5 years. So I heard the appeals that people brought, but we also dealt with the county budgets. Yeah. Okay. Good. So, just keep people, because when we use these terms at the Capitol, the average man, they're like, God, I don't know those, sine die, sine die, how do you pronounce, I mean, they use all these, Latin terms, and I think that's why lawyers can charge so much, is because they use Latin.
Now, I have another question then. So, if I'm a voter and I've had my home for 30 years, and mine is the $100,000 value, and I'm happy with that. Why would I vote for you if you're going to possibly raise my taxes up to the ad valorem, the new value that you're charging my next door neighbor? And the new guy is probably going to say, if you're going to lower them, I'm for you. So is there an equitable way of fixing that? In other words, is there a just way? This is what I think that people would like to know. Is there a just way to determine what is the actual value? Who actually does the assessing? How can you fairly assess what the value on every home on a block in a certain area in a certain town or city is? Well,
it's basic appraisal. I mean, there's three approaches to value. Residential is typically done on a cost or a sales approach. So if you have several sales in a neighborhood that reflect a value, say a range of $150 a square foot, then you kind of get the idea that's the range of value for that neighborhood. If you have homes in there that are $60 or $70, then those are the homes that would be receiving a 3%. If they're homesteaded, they'd be receiving a 3% increase. I mean, do you see a notice every year on your home?
I do.
Okay, so what that's doing is it's bringing you up. So really in the next 4 years, which is the term of office for the assessor, as things stand right now, you'll receive a 12% increase in your value.
Wow.
And that usually means a 12% increase in your taxes. The limitation's on value, not on tax. So if the rates go up, I mean, you could see a 15% increase, or if it goes down, maybe you see a 10.
Well, starter homes have really taken off in price.
Yeah.
But we're not sure they're going to hold their value. I mean, when the oil crash hit Oklahoma in '86, I bought right after that. And so my house, I bought for 70 cents on the dollar. My neighbors around me hated me. I mean, they had a bad attitude towards me because how much cheaper I got my house for and how much lower taxes I then paid. They didn't have an automatic reduction in their assessed or appraised value. So I'm wondering, moving ahead, who we decide to be our assessor could greatly impact what happens ahead, especially for young families, starter homes, retirement homes, smaller homes. The bigger homes have been a little more stable in my observation.
Right, but they get hit by the market pretty hard too. I think at this point we're seeing a little bit of a weakness in that, real expensive big home market.
Yeah.
But the difference here between Oklahoma and other states, I mean, and there's numerous. I consider, we talk about being a top 10 state. Well, we're a bottom 10 tax state, in my opinion. I think it's one of the worst.
Are you saying overall, or are you talking property?
I'm not a big sales tax fan, especially when it comes to groceries. It's so regressive.
Okay.
Oklahoma should have a tax system that's the most deductible in your federal income tax that you can have.
Yeah.
I look at a state like Texas, where everybody is aware that, they have incredibly high property taxes because they don't have an income tax.
Right.
Well, the difference between Oklahoma and Texas is, back that 20-year ago period you were talking about, where we limited valuation to 5%, and then later another constitutional amendment changed it to 3% on homesteads and ag property. Well, so we limited value. The difference is Texas limited spending. And therein lies the difference.
Ah.
So if you cap spending, then the taxpayers control the budget.
And that goes to the other role that you would serve if elected is on the county budget board, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been on the excise board. I've seen the budgets. I at that time identified what I thought were surpluses.
Yeah.
And we argued about whether or not there's a surplus. You can call it whatever you want. It's a surplus.
Yeah.
But now it may sound to some people, I'm not, it's hard to make it not sound where if you're on the low end, you have an older home, it's unfair or they're going to get me. But in a way, if you raise their valuation, let's say, to be fairer to the people with the new home, because my home, for example, in 1 year jumped $100,000.
in value.
In value.
Not in assessed value, but
Right, exactly. But assessed value won't be far behind, I would imagine.
well, if it's homestead, it'll be 3% a year.
Oh yeah, right. So, but is it possible then, under your formula, because you're bringing everyone's value up to an equal level, to bring the actual tax value down? So, in other words, if, for example, let's say this house is $300,000, this is $150,000, and you bring everybody to $200,000, then can we lower the amount we charge everybody on their property taxes to the point where these people don't get hurt and these people don't get hurt?
Well, if values were uniform
Right.
and equitable across the board, then you'd have a pretty good system. But in Oklahoma, it still would not be the best. And here's where the difference is between us and other states. In Texas, when you have a large increase in valuation across the board in your countywide, what happens is the tax rates there drop. And so you could have a 3% increase in your value, but not see an increase in your taxes. And in Oklahoma, about 35% of our tax rate, Tulsa County, about 35% of our tax rate is for bonded indebtedness, and that portion of the rate floats.
Yeah.
So that's what I was getting at. So what I'm saying is, so you could see the increase here, but not increase the amount.
Well, the valuation, if you had a large increase in valuation across the board countywide, the tax rate that services our debt would drop.
Okay.
But the part that's, we have another like 65% of our rates set in stone. I haven't seen that in any other state.
Yeah.
So we have a certain amount of millage that's going to go to the health department, certain goes to the library, certain goes to the county. So anytime there's a value increase, it's a tax increase.
That was Ken Yeasel's big issue. He always pounded on that.
He and I talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
You segued perfectly. Use the word millage. To get people up to speed, pretty much everything that affects our property tax comes through a bond issue or some kind of thing, and the term they use is the millage.
Right.
And so we get this deal on the ballot. Sometimes it's during a school board election when less than 10% show up to vote, and that's where they determine the rate that assessed value is subject to. That's the other side of it. Right?
Well, the rate itself, the total rate in Tulsa right now is about 135 mills. When I went to work at the county, it was 70.
Yeah. What does mills mean?
Well, it's a reflection of the money needed for the budget, but it's like 1/1000th of a.
So it's the metric system,
right,
millimeter,
right.
1/1000th. Yes.
So in Tulsa right now, it's 135 mills is kind of the average rate. Well, that's a reflection of 10 mills to the county, 5 mills to the library, all the millage that gets added up. It's just a grand total of all those. It creates a tax rate. That millage rate of, say, 135 times your value equals your tax bill.
Right.
And just so people know, they get that money whether they need it or not.
Exactly.
And that's why they're continually building new community colleges there or tech schools, whether they need it or not. They'll have an empty or half-empty building here and not enough students, but they've got to use the money some kind of way, or their fund just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, what I would advocate is that some of these tax rates were set 60 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so you're saying that somebody could sit there and look ahead 6 decades and could say the valuation of Tulsa County 65, 70 years from now times this rate that we're setting today somehow is going to be exactly the amount they need.
Yeah. I want to go to your the office in the role on the budget board that it would place you in, where you set the budget for all these county deals. Now, Tulsa used to be primarily, almost completely based on property tax at the county level. It seemed like 20 years ago, we had this vision proposal, and that's where we set, I think, it'll probably be a permanent county sales tax.
Right. I'm not sure it's permanent, but I know
it's not on paper.
Right.
But you know how these things, the Tulsa third penny that's become permanent. It started out with Jim Inhofe as a 3-year thing, and then they did drop it, and it was always for capital improvements. So when wasn't it about 20 years ago they started, and so they offered all these counties around, or all these suburbs around Tulsa, all these parks, like, all over. Is that, but also what we saw in there is all of a sudden the just booming explosion of Tulsa Community College. How does that play in its funding to the assessor's office?
Well, the assessor's office, their function's valuation.
Right.
Take a value times an assessment ratio times the rate. But their job is valuation. So they're to determine the basis for taxation on each individual property.
Right. But see, on my tax comes due every year, what percent of that is going to a community college?
Probably 12.
Wow.
10, 12, 13, right in that rate. It's broken down on the assessment records. It shows, so many mills for each entity. And here's what I'd like to see done is I'd like to see after 60 years, these were voted by a different Tulsa. These were different. This was a different population here that looked at those proposals that were given to them, and they wanted to build junior colleges. We really needed some state-funded education in Oklahoma. At that time, we had zero. And this is right when
Tulsa.
In Tulsa.
Yeah.
When I got out of college, there was no state option here.
Right. Tulsa's been screwed over on higher ed. Yeah.
So we have this, amazing junior college system with great facilities. But with the valuation that we have now on the tax rolls and what we're going to have in the future, should that millage be adjusted? Mm-hmm. And if you sat down and just audited the spending of every entity for the last 5 years mm-hmm. and looked at how much millage they needed for that spending and how much they might have now in a fund balance, there may be adjustments that could be made to some of those tax rates.
Yeah.
And that way you'd get tax savings.
Well, also the spending, was it needed spending? They should actually look at what it was spent on, because some of the spending was unnecessary because you got empty buildings, empty classrooms, empty things.
Right.
It was unnecessary.
You got to maintain those buildings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You got to do that too. Exactly right.
My problem is now all 3 of my kids went through Tulsa Community College. Why? Because it's free.
Yeah. What a deal.
We're all getting worked up about Obama forgiving college debt, right? And that I don't believe it's the duty of the taxpayer to pay a grown adult's higher ed. Anyone, period. But if we're going to do it, we should at least do it on a needs base, right? So the underprivileged get some help. They're paying grocery tax right now. And so that's my little side rant. The fact that they are offering free associate's degree to anybody living in Tulsa, that's kind of the net result, tells me they are awash in money.
Well, some kind of an audit, some kind of a review. When you have 50 states and you've got plenty of junior colleges, the wheel's been invented out there. And to go look at other jurisdictions and see what their funding looks like. Yeah,
my thing is it's time to cut that budget if that's how awash in money they are. But can we? Or is their funding locked in?
I think there's some of the tax rates, some of the millage rates on some of the entities could be recalled. I think the commissioners could look at some of them. Some of this might take legislation. Yeah. Some of this might take a constitutional amendment. It's not an easy thing to change.
So it's not a county decision here in Tulsa?
Not on all of them. Okay. I think that, one thing, you face a school funding formula. Yeah. That deals with the entire state and 500 school districts.
Isn't it also, but are not the public schools, primary, secondary education, they're not a part of the same system of millage that the community college, library, and public health are they?
Those are separate rates.
They're
all
separate.
Add into the total. But
Right. But they're figured, aren't they on a different scheme?
Well,
aren't they on two different, as Ken explained it to me, the one is based on, man, I wish I could remember. It's been so long. But one is based on no matter what happens, it goes up or stays the same. The other one is based on whether the income goes up or down.
Well, the bonds, the debt is serviced based on the total value of the county. So as the total value of the county goes up, that rate floats. The city gets a good deal of taxes for debt, not any for operations.
Yeah.
Although I think there's going to be a proposal to add that. But,
yeah.
But the right now, the only money the city gets is part of the bonded indebtedness that we vote. And same with schools. When we pass bond issues for schools, that's part of the debt. That's about 35% of your tax rate.
Yeah. But TPS, let's say, and whether it's Union, Jinx, or Wasso, they're paid on a different system than community colleges, Votech, and the library and the Tulsa County Health.
Well, I mean, those budgets are part of the millage. I mean, they are the
right, but again, but they're in a different.
They're itemized.
It's a different system.
Yes, sir. Each of them stand on their own. There's a lot of entities go into that.
Okay.
Yeah, because every county's got public schools, but not every county even has a community college
or library.
Yeah. Okay. Good point there too. So, all right. The other thing I wanted to say, some legislators reached out to me last year, said, look, we want to do an interim study at the Capitol this summer on the mental health crisis that we're faced with, and asked me to help get them some of the best speakers. Well, our special judge, Kirsten Pace, said, absolutely, I'll change my docket to be there. Sheriff Regalado, I wouldn't miss it. That's part of the opportunity that the office brings you, isn't it? That you can speak to those state issues that confine you.
Yeah, I think, what I've seen in the 40 years that I've been associated with anything property tax related in the county is status quo. Nothing's changed. I mean, people have come in. We had Wilson Glass, the assessor I worked for, was a real professional assessor. I never really considered him a politician. The assessors that followed, they all talked, and even Ken Yazel, as hard as he tried to make points, nothing changed.
Yeah.
And something needs to change at this point, and that's really why I'm running. I see an unfair tax system. I see values that aren't equal. I see tax rates that may be producing windfalls. Yeah. And I look at it, and I decide I'd rather take a chance at running. I'd feel worse if I ran and didn't win. I'd feel bad, but I'd feel worse if I hadn't tried.
Absolutely.
And so in this case, what I'm trying to do, and what I'd have to do as an elected official, is to try to show the other elected officials, both state and local, how ad valorem tax works in Oklahoma and how it works elsewhere. Yeah. Give you an example. In Ohio, they have a surplus. And when they have a surplus in Ohio, they don't try to give it back to anybody. They send it to the counties, and they cut the tax rates 40% one year when I was working there. And so there's all these different ways that people have done things. And I'd like to bring those to people's attention.
That's the unique thing, that you've been traveling the country, working with systems, you're understanding systems. There's some that make no sense to you and some that make a whole lot of sense. So
yeah, there's a lot of different ways people. Some places they have a different tax rate for residential than commercial. Yeah. In Colorado, they had it was this amazing change where they froze residential. Residential and commercial were both at 29%, and they froze the residential amount of value. And every 2 years they reappraise, and they're real professional. They're real aggressive. But what you have is now, because of the frozen rate there, now residential's at like 7 or 6%, and commercial still at 29. So they've shifted the burden away from residential. Yeah. So there's just all these ideas. None of these can I wave a wand and say, here's how we're going to do it. But I'd like to show people what the options are.
So a couple of pretty popular Oklahoma County appraisers, Sandy Hodges over in Wagner County, Larry Stein. These are a couple of friends of mine. Have you discussed any of these potentials for reform with some other sitting assessors?
With their staffs, I have both good assessors that you just named off, and those are two of the best. And I know that Oklahoma County looks at some of the same issues I do, dealing with some of the commercial appraisers that I talk to on a pretty regular basis. But one of the issues that we had that was a concern in Oklahoma County is situations where some commercial properties are changing hands.
Yeah.
And the deeds are not filed. Yeah. And it's a case where, say, a corporation sells. When I was working with Safeway stores across the country, they went through a buyout.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What is it that happens when somebody just buys the corporation which holds the properties?
Well, in this case, when Safeway was bought out by KKR, over half the stock changed hands. In California, which oddly enough is our biggest state for business, we did most of our work in California.
Oh, yeah. They're big out
Even
there.
though they have a 2% cap and Prop 13, it's still a real high tax state. But in California, if over half the stock of a company changes hands, the properties become reassessable.
Right. That's property's been sold.
Right.
Through the stock exchange.
And Oklahoma has no law like that. And so if the property changes hands without a deed being filed, the county assessors miss it. And so you could be looking at a situation where hundreds of millions of dollars are not making it to the tax roll.
Yeah.
Now, if I was assessor and I found out about one of those, I probably would have just tried to raise the value and, we would have taken it through the courts and gotten a decision. But, really the legislature is the one that needs to define what a change of ownership is, and they need to define what a change is.
So let's say I own 20 rental properties, and I just simply incorporate each of them separately. If I want to sell off a rental property, I would just sell that corporation that I built around that single property, and it would not trigger in Oklahoma a reappraisal.
That's already going on.
How about that? Yeah. That needs to change for equity's sake.
That's right. You have and that's where you could have a situation where somebody buys a home and they maybe have a rental up the street from them.
Yeah.
And they're going to be on at $200,000, and a commercial property up on the corner may be on for a low value, and then there's one poor guy that filed a deed and he's on at current market value.
Yeah, now, Larry, and I we probably need to wrap up here real soon, but some of these reforms that need to happen statewide require people with the kind of specialty you and some of the other assessors I've mentioned actually get together and speak with one voice, because I think people will listen to their county assessors. And for that reason, we don't want an introvert who doesn't really make the kind of changes, just kind of keeps their head down and stays in office. Make your pitch why you're supposed to be the guy that we vote for this year.
Well, 40 years experience working throughout the United States and actually some other countries. I mean, I worked in Canada, and we had some other spots around the world where there's ad valorem tax. We had clients. Just to back up briefly, I started this thing, and after Safeway, we started working with like Hobby Lobby when they had 40 stores, and we worked with Love's Country Stores as they grew. So as these clients of mine grew, my business grew, and it put me throughout the country. And we were able to look at property taxes from just different angles, and that put Oklahoma in perspective. I developed a real passion for the work when I worked at the county, and as I traveled, I just asked questions. I couldn't learn all the laws. It's tough to do, but I did know the questions I needed to ask. And every one of those questions in most states, it put in perspective to me the deficiencies in Oklahoma. And so I'd like to bring those best practices I've seen around the country back to Oklahoma. And it would affect our school children. It would affect the fairness of taxes in Oklahoma. And perhaps if we had a system that instead of adding a new millage rate for another district, if we could cut enough in the millage, then perhaps we can add this district and fund. We all are real proud of our police and fire, especially after this last weekend and seeing how they operate. They deserve to have fair pay and all the money that we can give them to buy the materials they need. They want to pass another millage to do that. Well, perhaps if we found enough savings on the other rates, we could add that and we wouldn't have a tax increase. Yeah. So I'd like to bring those best practices to Oklahoma and work as hard as I can. At 70, I'm not launching a new career here, but I would like to bring my knowledge and expertise back and try to contribute it to the state and the county, and just see if we can make changes that I think need to be made.
Very good. Very good. This has been really exciting, very interesting. It's very different from what we normally have, and may seem a little wonky, but it's very important to all of us because this affects whether you have children or don't have children, if you own a home, don't own a home, because it affects the cost of living. And it's so important for our state to progress properly and to hold accountable where your money is going. I had a friend one time, I asked him, about how do you budget? What is the best way to budget? And he says, you won't know how to go forward until you know where it's going. In other words, if you've got money coming in, but you don't know where it's going out, you can't do any budgeting. So the first thing you have to do is figure out where is your money going. And it was a real lesson. And so I had to, I set up a little chart, and I mean, it's hard to do every month, or it was. It's not anymore. I just transpose everything every month.
Give it all to my wife.
Okay, Adam. But seriously, and on a whether it's at your home, whether it's a city level, state level, national level, you've got to know where your money is going, and you've got to have somebody that knows how to find out where it's going and take charge of that. And honestly, this is the first time I've met anyone who really talks about where is our money going. And like I said, I love Ken. Ken was a very good friend of mine, and I know you respected him and had a good relationship. But I haven't felt as confident in the last several years, and so it's really good meeting you and getting to hear you, what you've shared, and I just want to wish you luck, and I hope the people out there can appreciate what you've just said, and we'll get behind you, and I'm ready to endorse you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah. No, seriously, it is. I don't do this. I haven't endorsed anybody else, and because it's not so clear cut.
I got one more question.
Yeah, there we go.
You could live anywhere. You told me all your clients. Mm-hmm. Why'd you pick Oklahoma to?
I was born and raised here. I mean, I'm an Edison grad from '69, and I'm an OU grad.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I may have to reconsider that. No. I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm kidding. I'm a Texas Tech grad, so I have no horse in this fight.
And your family?
Married. My wife Sherry and I, between us, have 5 children and 4 grandchildren.
Grandkids. Love them.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah. In fact, I have a ballet recital.
That's right.
About 2 hours.
So. Oh, by the way, something I wanted to get to that I think we skipped over. You're a veteran.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and thank you for your service. You were Air Force.
Yes, sir.
And what did you do in the Air Force?
I was a crypto operator. I had a top secret security clearance and dealt with coding and encoding. It was fascinating. I really enjoyed it.
Now, what I want to find out, this is good, because you don't have to kill me anymore because you have been out of the Air Force for a while. I'm sure whatever was secret then may not be secret anymore. But you were in Ghana.
Liberia.
I'm sorry, Liberia, one of those African nations. Aren't they all alike? No, this is funny. I have to tell you a story. So, you having been to Africa, you would know where Uganda is compared to Ghana or Liberia, right? All the way. And you know how big.
Oh, it's massive.
The United States could fit into Africa 3 times. Most people don't know this because when you look at a map, it doesn't look that. Yeah. But it'll fit 3 times. So I tell people, oh yeah, I've been to Kenya, Uganda. Oh, do you know so-and-so? Well, where are they? They're in Lagos, Nigeria, and it's only like
it's a big city,
5,000 miles away, but anyway, so the U.S., we have bases there or we did in Liberia.
In this case, it was and this was a long time ago.
Yeah,
I was in from like 70 to 76.
Cold War days.
And that was kind of what was so interesting. Yeah. I mean, tracking what was kind of going on, but there was some time in the Air Force and in the Oklahoma Air National Guard. Yeah. But had an opportunity in this case. I mean, this was a mission that was going to President of Liberia was being inaugurated. And so I got to hook a ride on a plane that was going to pick up Mrs. Nixon's bags and the Grambling band instruments from So I attended the inauguration and spent a week there. And
I'm glad you catch it.
It was fun. Very interesting.
Eddie needs to understand Africa better. He's more German than I am. That's a fact, Eddie.
Well, that is true, but at the same time, if I go to 23andMe, I think my African roots are, in fact, my African roots are actually West African. More than, well, I'm going to say if they're more than my German or whatever. I don't know. But I have African roots. So there you go. Take that.
Yeah.
He's always messing with me, I like to mess with his mongrel, Flemish roots.
Oh, God. Here we go.
We need to get back to our guest.
I know.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate
this has been really good. Seriously, I think we need to have more of this, and I hope you do win. And when you do, I'd like to have you come in periodically and find out ways that we could help and the listeners could help bring about some of these changes that you envision and things we can do to help. Because I agree, there's something not right here in our city, in our state, with the way funds are handled. Because I hear this all the time, that our taxes are so high, but Texas, and their property, that's the go-to excuse. Well, their property taxes. So we have these turnpikes. Yeah, but their property taxes. We have this. Oh, but their property taxes. And I think if we add their property taxes, and then we take our turnpikes, our grocery tax, or this, I think if you put them together, we still beat them. And
I think you're right. It's not as big a difference as people try to make it think. But the sales tax on groceries, that's the worst thing we do, and that would be a great thing to change. They tried to this year.
But I remember Mike Mazie. That was his big thing when he was the state senator. John Sullivan. All these people tried it, and it was like no. It's like you slapped somebody's mother, to try to touch that. But
so I do want to give you fair warning. You get elected. I want a county assessor that also is a reform advocate at the state level. And I think Larry Stein would, sure you guys would have a lot in common having metro areas. And then there's going to be other counties as well, Cleveland County, Wagner County, and that'll do that. So that's what I'm really hoping for.
That's a warning?
I'm setting him up. To know his expectations would be.
It'll be a lot of work, and
it is.
It's going to be tough to accomplish everything I'd like to accomplish, but the best thing I can do is bring those, like I said, the best practices from around the country back here and at least inform people and see if any of it sticks.
But I guarantee you, between MassoonerPolitics.org and Fresh Black Coffee, you'd have two allies in microphones.
One last thing, if you'll look over there and tell the people, or if you can, still speaking to the mic and look in that direction, how can people contact? What is your website?
Well, I've got several. Thank you for asking. The primary one is voteburkefораssessor.com.
Vote Burke?
Yes.
Is that with an E?
Right. Yes, sir. B-U-R-K-E.
K-E.
So
voteburkefораssessor.com
and Byron, voteburkefораssessor.com. There's one that's Byron Burke for Assessor 2022.
Oh, yeah, but this is easy. Vote
That's
Burke.
The one, that'll take you to the website.
And you've got endorsements that are too many to mention here in this short period of time.
Well, I started late on this time, and I'm out talking to people, and we're working hard to try to get the word out about what I want to try to do.
Yeah, but one of the guys who's a friend of this show defeated you last time, and now he's endorsing you.
Yeah, Darren's been a big help.
Darren Gantz
is we were adversaries for not a very long time. We hit it off pretty well, and we're good friends. And
you found out how decent each other were.
He's a real good guy to work with.
That's great. We need more of that in politics.
Yes.
Adversaries who become friends. We just need that.
Yeah. Well, it just doesn't need to be adversarial, but I mean, the best thing we can do is to try to have the fairest tax system, really the most deductible tax system on our federal income tax. Mm-hmm. And that's where sales tax really falls short.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Byron, thank you so much. It was very nice meeting you.
All right. Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you.
All right.
All right, Dave, we're back. That was pretty good. Yeah, he sounds like the real deal. That's the kind of stuff, I think his background gives him the gravitas, as they call it, to be the right guy for this job. And, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, keep going. I'm just gonna.
Oh, you're gonna zoom in a little bit, get a little closer.
Yeah, there we go.
Am I ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille? DeVille. Hey, we've got some other stuff in the news, and I don't know what I did with my note. I printed them out, and I guess for naught, as they say. What the heck happened to those? But the good, you know what? No, they're still here. Good.
There you go.
Hey, I want to discuss, Ukraine, first of all, and get that out of the way, the latest. I think I mentioned last week that 100 Ukrainian forces a day are dying, and the Ukrainians are being honest. They're mentioning that, yes, that's what's happening. But at the same time, Zelensky is saying that we will win, we will be successful. And as I looked at the map, the Russians now control the entire east all the way down just short of Odessa. Not Odessa, Texas, for those of you that from Jenks. No, Odessa, Ukraine.
Yeah.
But the Russians aren't done yet. They're still marching and still attacking and all.
If I could clarify, Zelensky was on Newsmax a couple days ago, and he said between 60 and 100. That's what the latest he's saying. And then the last I heard is probably 20% of Ukraine's under Russian occupation.
Yeah. That's more than I thought, but from when I looked at the map. But, I mean, for you nitpickers and exact detail people, 100 a day. I'm sticking with that 100, Ukrainian troops a day dying now, because all we heard before was how many Russians are being killed.
That's true.
Plus they're devastated. That whole area is just devastated. And summer's here. No more Russian tanks and trucks being stuck in the mud. Now, I don't rejoice in that.
No.
All I'm saying is, man, it's sad. You've devastated one of the most beautiful parts of Europe.
Yeah.
That is an absolutely beautiful, that whole eastern part there along the Black Sea, that used to be the Riviera of Eastern Europe. That was the Riviera. That's where all of the Eastern European people went on vacation. Russians, the people in the Eastern Bloc used to go there for their vacations. That was the high society places.
Franklin Roosevelt, Winston Churchill went there.
Did they really? Oh, yeah, when they met. Yalta, when they met to discuss.
Hey, it was the best Russia had to offer.
Well, yeah. That was a different time and a different situation. They were plotting to take over from Hitler at that time. But it's when I see those images of the devastation,
it is.
And you're still talking about 100 people, 3,000 a month. In a year, I mean, think about it, that's 36,000 people in a year. If you multiply it out, it's just, and not to mention the fatherless, the motherless, the homeless, everything. That's the breadbasket of Europe.
Yeah.
Africa, they're already complaining that Africa is going to be experiencing famine because a lot of food that's grown there is being shipped and used to feed people in Africa. I never knew this. I guess because a lot of Africa is famine stricken all the time. I didn't realize Ukraine is feeding Africa.
That's where I want to talk about the stark difference between a war in Ukraine and a war in Afghanistan. Because time is always on the Afghanistan side, because they're a third world country, may perpetually be.
Who cares?
They'll wait you out.
Who cares? Right.
But Ukraine.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't care. I'm just saying the world. Who really?
but the fall of Ukraine and its global impact just on food. Because it's the breadbasket of the old Soviet Union. It's their most productive farmland. I mean, it's rich.
Apparently, it's the breadbasket of more than the Soviet Union.
Right.
Europe?
Yeah. No, I'm saying when
Middle East,
it was
Africa?
part of the Soviet Union,
Oh,
that was
right.
where they actually grew food. And if they had a problem in Ukraine, all of the Soviet Union,
You want to stay a little closer to your mic and speak lower. That way it sounds better. Okay.
Yeah.
You can probably pick that up.
Calm down, Dave.
No, but you can probably pick that up, the difference in your headphone.
Except when I'm yelling. Then I can't.
Well, yeah, when you're back here, your voice gets tinny and it gets distant. So it's just easier. So
it is a problem. Time is not on the Ukrainian side in this battle.
Yeah, but Zelensky, a report I read, that he thinks he can outweight and outlast the Russians.
What are you going to do? You can't speak as a pessimist when you're in his position.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And then he's not getting any help from us. I mean, in that regard, in the PR war, because, again, I go back to this image I can't get out of my mind. Somewhere I saw there's a silent film or cartoon or something, but I think it was a silent film, and it's this little midget guy, and I don't know if it's a midget, just a smaller guy, and this big giant guy, and they're in a fight, and the big guy's just beating this little guy to a pulp, and he goes, and the little guy's trying to get out of there, and the crowd guys say, "Oh no, you're good," and they're dusting him off. They turn and they keep pushing him back into the fight with this giant guy.
Yeah.
"Oh, you're good. No, get out there, go get him. And they push him back out there, and the guy keeps getting beaten. He's looking around and trying to figure out, how can I get out of here? All he wants to do is get out of there. And the big guys are, no, boom, and they keep pushing him out there. That's the image. I keep seeing this thing. Honestly, and that's what I see here. I see these dirty, rotten European and American scoundrels egging on Ukraine when it could have been avoided.
Yep.
Russia, from the beginning, I said this because it was so clear. It was so clear in the beginning. They stated the purpose, and the media was honest in the purpose, and they told us, Putin told us, he wants the Donetsk, he wants that Black Sea access right on the border of Russia and up against the Black Sea. That's what he wanted. But no, we said he wants the rest of Ukraine. So what does he do? He attacks up around Kharkiv, starts attacking Kiev, has all these trucks going.
Chernobyl,
and then they said he was bogged down with this 40-mile long caravan. Everybody was busy attacking up there, thinking, oh yeah, and they're doing great. And while we're looking here, what's he doing? Boom, he's taking over the area he really wanted the whole time. I mean, listen, I didn't even sleep at a Holiday Inn last night. And I could see what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then you got these so-called genius generals.
Yeah.
No wonder we had to flee Afghanistan. No wonder we lost the war in Vietnam with these so-called West Point graduate generals. Trust me, we have not graduated a General Patton or a MacArthur in many years.
Yeah, but we use the proper pronouns.
I keep hitting my mic stand. I've got to change it. So, no, it's to the point where, honestly, it just saddens me. It bothers me. And I've got these friends in Europe, these friends that live in Germany in particular. I think one of them I think he's calmed down. I think he kind of understands what I've been saying. And he's come around. So anyway, the other one, it's a German that's lived in America, and he just keeps going. He just doesn't get it. But
you know what I think, when I see what Trump was able to accomplish when it came to keeping Russia at bay, because none of those things happened. I mean, we didn't even have the Taliban attacking us for the last year and a half that we were in Afghanistan. Trump could see 2 years down the road. Joe Biden doesn't know what happened last month yet.
You know, honestly, you know what I think Trump did? Seriously, I think Trump operated like a mafia or a cartel leader. I honestly think Trump told the head of the Taliban, I know where your wife lives, I know where your mother lives.
Yeah.
And I know how to take them out.
Yeah.
If you want your mother, your wife, your children to keep living, you will leave us alone.
If you can survive as a New York businessman under 10 years of John Gotti running the mafia, you got to have some skills.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, see, this is the thing. This is what for some reason, I call it the sissification of America.
Sure.
And this is what the Republicans don't understand. The Republican Party, our leadership. In fact, forget it. I won't call it leadership. Seriously, Mitch McConnell and these guys.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to that further here in a minute. But this whole thing that's going on right now in Washington, it's a mess. And this is what Trump is like Homie the Clown in Living Color. Homie don't play that. He didn't do that. He walked softly and carried a big stick.
Yep.
He would make a call, or that's the old rulers. Yeah. Vlad, here's the deal, buddy. What do you want? Here's what I'm going to let you have. Okay. We can get along fine, or we can have it out.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. And last week, Mark Wayne Mullen, running for U.S. Senate on the House Intelligence Committee, broke a story to us here about how close, when Mark Wayne says they weren't there, but it was doable and probably could have been sealed within a week to have an end of the war. And then idiot Biden opens his mouth, not once, but twice, and kills the deal. I think a lot of the money that's going to Ukraine right now, this $40 billion, is just guilt pacification for Biden.
I don't think it's that. I think it's slime money. I think it's the military industrial complex getting paid.
Yeah.
I think it's the more Biden corruption money.
Yes.
To pay Ukraine. We don't know where this money's going.
Right.
How many missile launchers? We sent one missile, there was a big uproar about these missile launchers that could go into Russia and all.
Yeah.
It ends up, I think they sent one missile launcher. What is that?
Yeah.
And, I mean, this is the absolutely worst foreign policy that I've ever seen in my life.
Yes. Worse than Carter.
And I've lived some life.
This is worse than Carter, no doubt.
Oh.
And this is only 1 year.
And then, I'm going to jump over here. I think we've spoken enough about it.
Yeah.
Let's just say it this way. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is a -5. Okay. His new press secretary.
Oh, yes.
This girl. I can't even remember her name. Jean-Pierre, yeah.
Yes.
She's horrible.
Okay.
I mean, she is so bad.
Oh,
so bad. She's got to read while she talks. It's like me, Ukraine, today we've got troops that may retreat from the east as Russia advances. Ukraine said Friday its forces may need to to retreat from their last pocket of resistance in Luhansk to avoid being captured by Russian troops, blah, 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 And I mean, this is literally what she looks like up there.
Yeah.
And then she can't answer, and you can tell she's not. I mean, she's not ready.
No.
It's
horrible.
It's that his Supreme Court nominee, or the lady that's been, she's not ready.
Right.
I mean, every person that Biden has nominated for anything has not been ready and not qualified, and just horrible. Just horrible. I mean, honestly, absolute worst thing in the world. I just, and let me move to this now. Peter Navarro, you heard this. One of Trump's advisors, Peter Navarro, he's got a big mouth, okay? He likes to talk. Peter likes to talk. I'm not exactly a big Peter Navarro fan, okay? To me, he talks too much, and it's not my cup of tea.
Trump. That's interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah. Hey, do I have to like everything about everyone?
Not that I'm having fun with.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, yeah, but, you know, so they arrest him, he's in Nashville. He's getting ready to get on a plane.
Well, he's getting ready to fly to.
Oh, he's getting ready to go to Nashville. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. He's getting ready to go to Nashville. And here come the police and they arrest the guy, put him now this is how stupid this is. They not only put him in handcuffs, they put leg irons on the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me? You talk about over the top. Like, he's 72 years old.
Yeah.
He's gonna run somewhere?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, this is so over the top.
Oh, yeah. It's comical at this point.
It is comical. It's comical.
But keep in mind, 2 days earlier, Peter Navarro filed lawsuit against the FBI.
Right.
This is how they responded.
Oh, yeah, it's punitive. It's also meant to try to scare other people.
Sure.
Into, you don't want this to happen to you.
Yeah.
My suggestion is fight harder, get louder. And I'm asking you to not put up with this and mark these cowardly Republicans that we have out there. Anybody out there who is not willing to stand up and say, this has to stop.
Yeah.
This has to stop. We have got to clean house. This is unbelievable what's going on in our land. It's like, honestly, Russia holds no candle to what's going on right now in America.
Yeah.
I mean, this is more like China now.
Let's look at the bigger picture of this, because Sussman was just acquitted by a D.C. court. That plays into what I'm saying here. Do you remember during the whole BLM protests, you had autonomous zones in Seattle and I believe in Portland, right? D.C. is not just an autonomous zone, but they are enemy territory to the rest of the country at this point.
That's true.
Because they are outright saying, no, if you're on our side politically, you are not going to be held criminally accountable for anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's what they did to Sussman. I mean, it was just a slam dunk case.
Oh, sure.
But he's on our side. He's one of our guys.
Well, come on. How do you allow people to be on a jury when the guy's daughter is on the same soccer team with his daughter?
The judge says, oh, that's fine.
The judge's, the judge's wife was on the Hillary Clinton campaign or part of her staff or something. I mean, there were so many people on the jury. I mean, it might as well have been a Clinton jury.
Republican on the jury.
There wasn't a single Republican, and most of them worked for Clinton.
Yeah.
Or the DNC. Yeah. So what kind of justice are you going to find there?
Yeah. And now you wonder why all those hundreds are sitting in D.C. jails, because they went to a rally on January 6th.
Unbelievable.
A rally.
Unbelievable.
They weren't participating in a protest. They went to a rally.
No weapons, unarmed, freedom of expression. They entered the Capitol.
But Nancy Pelosi says it was a bigger threat than Pearl Harbor. Oh. They had no weapons.
She should be arrested just for a statement.
Let's look at, remember what was said by the 9/11 Commission. They were at war with us, but we were not at war with them. Folks, this is America versus D.C., the Beltway. They are at war with us.
Donald Trump, the prophet. Donald Trump.
Do we return in kind? No.
No, we never do. And that's what bothers me. Particularly the Senate, these guys, Mitch McConnell, I mean, seriously, the guy has no spine.
Yeah.
No spine. I mean, look at Schumer and McConnell. Schumer is out there every day throwing bombs.
Yep.
Flamethrower. spewing just vile hatred, all kinds of stuff. Mitch McConnell's out there. What's he telling?
Well, arranging for more gun control laws. That's what Mitch is doing this last week. Yeah.
But even beyond that, I have yet to hear him defend Donald Trump. I have yet to hear him open his mouth once to say that the people on January 6th were exercising their First Amendment rights.
Yeah.
And that there were unindicted co-conspirators that were inside. It was an inside job set up by the FBI.
Yeah.
That these were not innocent people. This was a setup. I mean, I guarantee you the Democrats would be laying it all out there. This was a setup. That's what they're saying about the Sussman trial.
Yeah.
That this was a setup. That's what at least that's what the media is trying to say.
Now, Mitch McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao, I believe she was Treasury Secretary.
She was, right.
Okay, so Donald Trump tried to work with Mitch, tried everywhere, even put his wife in Trump's cabinet. On January 6th, Elaine Chao, Betsy DeVos, Education, so they called for a 25th Amendment removal of Donald Trump immediately that day. They lost. Those two resigned immediately that day when they failed. You talk about a coup. That's the coup.
They smile in your face all the time to try and take your place, those backstabbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad, people. It's bad. So, all of you, now I'm not going to say Republicans, all of you people that value the foundation of this land, what it was founded upon, you need to stand up. You can't be quiet anymore. You can't be silent. And Christians, pastors, churches, you can't put up with this stuff. You can't sit quietly and say, I'm going to get in my closet and pray, and that's it. No. You stay in your closet and pray, but when you come out of that closet, you got to speak up. You got to get out there. You know, what is Romans 12:12? How will they hear?
Yeah, unless somebody send them. Oh, you got me. I thought it was pretty good at Bible memory.
No, I know. And when you get up in those 4 score, and
the
7.
altitude's high up here.
Yeah, 4 score and 7. No, yeah. 3 score and 10 years ago I was born. No, yeah, I'm with you. But anyway, no, you got to speak.
Yeah,
you got to let your voice be heard. You can't be afraid. Can't be afraid. Do not be afraid. I mean, my goodness. What's the old poem? When they came for the Jews, I did not speak up because I'm not a Jew. When they came for the Jehovah's Witness, I didn't speak up because I'm not Jehovah's Witness. When they came for the this, that. And when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak up for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
exactly. They're coming for you. Just wait. Yeah. They will come for you. Sure. Trust me. They're coming for you, which leads me to Uvalde and St. Francis right here in Tulsa this week. And that is going to lead, I want to discuss St. Francis here real quick, and then to what that is leading to, the whole debate on gun control. But let's discuss the St. Francis shooting.
Yeah.
There have been a couple of different stories about there, and I've told you earlier when I initially heard. I jumped the gun. Somebody told me he had heard from a police officer a story of what.
You can't lie on the internet, so it must be true. Whatever's on the internet.
Well, no, I mean it was what I would call a reliable source.
Yeah.
And then what's weird is my wife tells me last night what she heard, and I hadn't even told her this story, and it was exactly the same story that she heard the same thing. So now, I'm wondering, well, wait a minute, is this story? So I don't know. But Dave, you had some information you haven't told me. So you tell me some more inside information you have, which must be true.
Well, we know it was a black man,
right,
age 45, a resident of Muskogee. Who's had been married. We don't know what their marital status was because his wife was a medical doctor, graduate of Drexel there in Philadelphia. He went in for back surgery from this specialist, orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Preston, Harvard grad. On the 19th, he had surgery, I believe it was, and was released from the hospital, I believe the 22nd. This is just the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, just recently.
And here's one of the things I got from somebody you and I know very well and trust, who happens to have deep connections in St. Francis management. He was given painkillers, a certain amount, went through them, went to get some more. They gave him some more. Went again, they wouldn't give him any more. And this isn't so much a mental health thing as it is despair and denial of pain medicine, which drove a man who may be a narcissist, but not just to kill himself, but decide to kill others on his way out.
But my question then is, why kill the doctor versus the pharmacist?
Well, it takes the doctor, and the doctor's held accountable for what you're prescribed. The pharmacist...
so the doctor wouldn't prescribe him...
Right.
Give him a new prescription for more.
Right. Now, here's the thing that's happened. At the legislature 4 years ago, they pushed through a whole bunch of opioid crackdown laws. Right. It was the Attorney General mostly doing it. At the same time, he's suing Johnson & Johnson and all these others. Right. It's a tough crackdown. The very next session, John Eccles gets up in the very first vote on a bill on the floor of the House. It's John Eccles saying, I am sorry for those of you suffering chronic pain. We went too far. And he partially changed it. Change it for people with established chronic pain so they could continue getting their meds. But what they did crack down is people for acute situational pain and highly limited on a one-size-fits-all schedule. And everybody, regardless of what your pain tolerance is, everybody gets the same short few-day supply. A doctor couldn't write you a 30-day prescription. You had to go back every week. And it caused the pain management doctors to deeply cut their patient load because they got to now see everybody not once a month, but once a week. That's part of the problem. The legislature is greatly responsible for setting up this scenario. Not to say they're murderers, but some people can only be pushed so far.
All right. See, this is another one of these situations where you and I are going to part ways.
Okay.
You see it as a situation where it's because the person wasn't prescribed what you feel is adequate medicine.
I don't know that.
Well,
I will say I don't know that.
Okay. I'm saying there are a lot of people who are prescribed the same amount and don't deal with it in this way. Obviously, this individual had more problems than that. There was a mental problem here that would cause him to want to kill 4 people, maybe 5. I think there may have been an additional person that passed away. I'm not
Even
not
his wife was not aware of mental health issues.
Well, I know, but how many people do you know that suffer severe pain or a certain amount, level of pain, and then go out, get a gun, and go kill a doctor, and not just a doctor, but his staff and some people that just happen to be in the visiting room.
This is unique because most people, when they get in a chronic pain for which they get no relief, if they do anything, it's commit suicide. And believe me, it is more of a problem than most people realize. When you got somebody who's angry because they feel like the doctor isn't doing them right. Now keep in mind, and this is a little bit of a side note, while I got this information yesterday afternoon, I was in the backyard of a client's house, doing some improvements on their deck. And he hears me, comes out, 70-some-year-old guy who had just had 2 knee surgeries. Mm-hmm. And he said, that doctor that died, he said, I was supposed to go to him. I had 1 visit. And his bedside manner, his people skills were horrible. And I immediately told my primary care physician, I went, I'm not accusing that guy. I'm telling you, this is what an old retired man said to me.
Right. I understand it. On Facebook, my wife and I discussed this. She thought the person was a bit rude, but someone posted on our Facebook when I wrote about this that their husband had been a patient of this same doctor, and they did not think he was a very good doctor. And then somebody attacked her for being unkind
Stomping
to the
on his grave.
Right. But she was just being very honest. She said, I don't want to be disrespectful, but this doctor was not a good doctor.
Well, and
so,
that's it. No, that's analytical. That's,
right.
I mean,
no. So you're confirming something that is being out there, but nevertheless, it doesn't give a person a right to kill that doctor and his staff and innocent people sitting in the waiting room.
Absolutely.
That tells me that it's more than that. There was a mental health problem, and what that was, I'd like to find out more about this person.
Okay.
There were some deeper issues here. There were some deeper issues.
And I looked into that. I went to criminal record history. Nothing in Oklahoma in over 10 years.
Right. Well, yeah. But see, it's more than a criminal history. I would just like to know, what was this guy's personality? In other words, did he have issues? Did he have a short fuse? Did he get into arguments with people? Did he get along with people? Was he was he like you? Was he like me? Was he like an average person that just something clicked and he went off? Because generally you just don't find people that, for example, our guest, Byron, who was just here, right? Myself, had severe back pains. I mean, my back was so bad, as I explained, I was crawling to the bathroom. I had to crawl I couldn't walk. It was that bad. It was kind of, I can tell you, you can see people, when I walked like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. This is how I walked. When people looked at me and said, oh, dude, what is with you? It was that bad. God healed me. Okay. I got healed.
Yeah.
Now, but in the midst of it, and I was going to these doctors, they were giving me spinal injections. They were giving me this. It didn't work. I didn't want to go get a gun and go visit the doctor because it didn't work.
Absolutely. And Eddie, I'm not saying there's any one reason here. There are a whole bunch of contributing factors, and everybody's got their limit. Okay? And it's a different limit.
But I'm picking up when you, because of your position on drugs that we've had. Yeah. Okay. It sounds to me, and for our audience sake, it sounds to me like you're saying the doctor should have just written him another prescription for drugs. Would that have done it? So here's what I'm trying to figure out. Had the doctor written him another prescription and another prescription and another prescription, would that have created another problem? Would it really have taken care of the real root problem? In other words, could it be that the guy just messed up the surgery? In other words, did the surgery he did not cure the back problem? And was he headed towards an addiction to the drugs and risking addiction, withdrawal eventually from that, or a greater problem? I don't know. These are answers that we won't know now.
Eddie, I'm not blaming the doctor. I am saying his temperament has gotten him some bad reviews from people I know personally. Okay,
the doctor.
Oh
yeah, no, yeah. We're agreed on. We're agreed on that. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah, but I'm saying what I'm getting at. It sounds like what you're saying is that the doctor's problem was not that he was not a good surgeon. You're saying that he should have given the guy his prescription.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. Because it sounded like that's what you were saying.
No. When I talked about the lack of available medicine, that's straight on state government. Straight on state government.
So you're blaming the state government?
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying the state government should have allowed the doctor to give him another prescription.
You don't write a one-size-fits-all and assume everybody's got the same body chemistry.
Right, but so you're saying because the state we are saying what I'm saying then. You're saying that because the state government wrote the rules, or the federal government actually.
Not federal, no. This is state.
Okay, all right. So we'll leave it at the state then. You might as well blame state like everybody else is. But anyway, so you're saying that because the state government says he's only allowed to write a prescription for such and such, that's why this guy basically had a right to get a gun and go shoot all those people. That's what it sounds like.
I know.
I'm just telling you that's what it sounds like.
I haven't finished.
Okay. Well, then finish.
So, no, and it wasn't Stitt. It was Mary Fallon that passed the draconian rules. Stitt signed the partial relief from it for those people in long-term chronic pain. They said, okay, they're not the problem. The real problem with addiction, which is what they're trying to fight, was the person who had an acute crisis that wasn't going to last but a few weeks and get better. Meanwhile, they're given so much in those few weeks that they get addicted. It really takes a doctor getting to know that patient, their history, their past use. Because, I mean, if you've had a lot of past history, now it's going to take more of opioid medicine to do the same thing.
So do you think this is the only patient that this doctor has done that type of surgery on and given this amount of drugs to?
Oh, I'm going to wait on that for the facts to come out.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, did you know he was supposed to retire next month?
Okay. No.
So that tells us that he apparently has been doing this for a while.
Oh, yeah. He's been around for 15, 20 years here in Tulsa.
Right. So in 15 or 20 years, the odds are pretty good that he's done a number of surgeries like this and prescribed the same. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This one guy who goes off is the one guy who, for some reason, should have gotten more drugs. Even though the other people didn't go get guns and come and kill him and all the other people.
They didn't make him a narcissist. They didn't make him homicidal. I'm just saying enough on the macro scale. Eventually, if conditions are made that difficult, there's always going to be one who's going to be pushed over the edge. Okay? And you just have to know that, and then you have to base your laws on what are the public policy needs and what are the ramifications and what is it going to cost.
Okay, so you're saying that you're willing to create, say, a few hundred drug addicts if it saves or keeps one person from going into becoming a shooter.
I don't think that the problem is gun laws being too liberal in this state.
But that's another issue.
I know, but let me get my point in the middle of a sentence. I think the problem is opioid laws that are too restrictive and too much of a hindrance to good physician-patient care. I think because they're threatened with loss of their careers.
That's true. But see, I think it gets down to know your patient.
Yeah.
Know your patient. So I can agree with you that doctors should be given the leeway to know the patient. Mm-hmm. Okay. And not restricted based on just you're allowed to give so many pills for 1 week.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's the same. Okay. Yeah. I can agree with that. Nevertheless, I'm not going to let this guy off the hook who killed these people and blame it on the doctor not giving him enough pills.
Oh, yeah. No, he is.
Because there are other ways. Like I said, I had excruciating pain. I can't describe how much pain it was.
Yeah.
It was bad. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
To the where I can't walk pain.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't it never, ever entered into my mind to kill anybody. The doctor, why aren't they making me right? Okay. Why is it his fault? There was something else there that caused him to want to kill the doctor.
It goes back to Eddie, and you've been a high school coach, so have I. Sports don't build character, they reveal character. Mm-hmm. Hardship in life reveals character. This man's character now got revealed for the deadly murderer that this man was.
Well, that may be, yeah.
Apparently, it just was.
Apparently, yeah. There had to be some more. There was more there than this. I don't know whether the guy went and talked to the doctor and the doctor cussed him out and told him to get his black behind out of his office or
said the black doctor.
Yeah. Oh, but we've already established that.
I know they're both black, which is why Biden's not coming.
That's why I said that, because that's how black people talk to each other. Yeah. You get your big black. Yeah. No, I'm serious. Like this,
you're right.
This is how we talk to each other.
You get to use words that I don't get to use.
So that could have happened. So there's more to it. What I'm saying is, it's not just the fact that this guy was upset about his back pain. Okay. There has to be more to it than that. Otherwise, you'd have people shot around the clock, you know.
But Eddie, the point I want to say, because everybody's been talking for the last month about, mental illness, psychosis, deranged. And I'm just saying, this is not mental illness in the classic sense that we look at psychosis. This is a personality disorder, I believe. We'll find out how bad his narcissism may be, or sense of entitlement, or just being an evil person.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a feeling, especially since you say he went to, I don't know where the guy the doctor went to Drexel, you said.
His wife was.
His wife was at Drexel, okay, because I've been to Philly, so I know.
Yeah.
Okay. And the guy's from Muskogee. I don't know, yeah. I'll wait to see what happens. We'll find out more. It's probably going to end up like Uvalde, and we're going to, as we dig deeper, we're going to find out all kinds of stuff as it's revealed.
A few years ago, I was at a major conference that one of the speakers was the administrator of St. Francis. And they talked about St. Francis policy as they are not going to be cutting edge, experimental in their medicine. Their doctors are very constrained that they follow orthodoxy, and they are right down the middle. Leave it to somebody else to try out new medicines, new treatments.
Utica Park.
Yeah. Well,
I'm serious.
Because this was at a time medical marijuana was first coming in, and both Utica Park and St. Francis, Warren clinics, they said only our pain management doctors will be allowed to do it, and then they were sat on them.
No, so, I will say this. I know that Utica Park, the Hillcrest system, Utica Parks, they have taken leaps and bounds in medicine. I went to a big seminar down there and met all these, and they've brought in doctors from the Mayo Clinic and from all these clinics around the country, and they have some of the top surgeons around the country, especially in the region, that they've brought in, and especially in allergy, cardio, thoracic surgeons. Yeah. And they've really upped the game. So I think they realized, because they had such a bad reputation for so long, that they knew they needed to do something. Yeah. And so I think they're probably a little more inclined to be cutting edge.
And to clarify, the St. Francis Health System includes Warren clinics.
Right.
Warren, just so people identify which chains we're talking, because most clinics in the Tulsa area are owned by hospitals. There's very few independent doctors out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Warren Clinic is the Saint system. Yeah. The two Catholic, what used to be Catholic, St. John's is no longer. It's Ascension.
They have St. John's Clinic. St. John's Physicians, they have their own chain as well.
Well, but they're united. They're in the same network. St. John, St. Francis, the same network.
There is that association.
They're still in the same network, because the reason I know this is because I do Medicare, and they've got their closed network. Yeah. And whereas everything else is outside of that network. So basically it's St. John, St. Francis, and then which includes Warren Clinics, but then it's everybody else.
Yeah, and there's one other component here when I talk about reforming our laws, or at least looking at them in light of this. This man's wife, or perhaps ex-wife, she referred to him as her ex-husband on her 911 call, but I didn't see any, court records of a divorce in Oklahoma. So by Oklahoma law, she is limited in what care she can give to a family member as a licensed doctor in Oklahoma. And we've seen other doctors have their licenses removed because of their treating of a family member. And so could this man have gone to his wife and say, get me something? She was at risk as well. Keep in mind, those opioid laws, they are really cracking down on physicians.
Yeah, and they need to. I mean, because you had the opposite problem of an overabundance of opioids being distributed.
Yeah.
So they needed to. And it's always, you're always going to overcorrect. You're always going to capture somebody in a net that you shouldn't, okay? Mm-hmm. But it's always better to overreach than it is to underreach, because in the end, you're going to probably hurt more people by underreaching than you do by overreaching. And then you come back and you find out, okay, where did we go too far? Let's readjust. And this is where you and I disagree.
Because I'm a Buckley advocate on this about the war on drugs. And you just have to say, is it really our job to protect you from yourself? And how far do we go in that?
Well, no, I agree to an extent. It's not our job to protect you from yourself. But again, at the same time, we're protecting us from ourselves all the time in everything else. You see? So, I mean, where do you draw the line?
That's just it.
For example, okay, we talk about, like to me, I believe that everybody should have to do a concealed carry class to have a firearm. But then the argument is, well, that's not how it originally was. Well, no, it's not. But why does everybody need to get a driver's license?
Driving's a privilege. On public roads, using heavy machinery.
Who decided it's a privilege?
Well, that's the mantra.
Well, owning a gun basically is a privilege, except they put it in the Constitution as more. And
so it's not a privilege.
No, but we didn't. But it's because we didn't have cars back then. That's the only reason they didn't get into the Constitution. But see, that's what I'm saying. See, you're just picking and choosing. No. To me, yeah, you are. Because honestly, if cars had been around when the founding fathers, for example, you didn't need a license to drive a horse and buggy, did you?
Yeah. No, that's exactly where I was going. I didn't say I agreed with the driver's license analogy.
How about an airplane? Flying an airplane? Should you have to have a license to drive an airplane?
Well, keep in mind, the logic of having a license is when you're using shared community property.
Oh, see, now you're making rules.
No, I'm saying that's what their logic is.
Okay. You're not saying you agree with it. You're just saying the logic.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like you were on radio for years. You had a license to that frequency, and they wouldn't let somebody else, block your signal by broadcasting on that frequency. You remember, you grew up in Europe during the Cold War, and when they would jam our radio signals from Radio Free America.
Right. And see, now there I understand that rule, because there's only a certain limited number of frequencies. But that's why we have the privilege of free broadcasting here on the internet, because it's wide open.
Yeah.
Now, one day there may come, there's not any room left.
Yeah.
And honestly, to get a website, like for us to be on Podbean or wherever we're on, we do have to pay for space. Like I have to pay
the domain fee.
Yeah. So we're still actually buying a license.
Not from the government.
Well, no, not. Well, somebody's paying the government. I guarantee.
I know.
I guarantee you, government. Or
it's
a cell phone. So, do you think Benjamin Franklin, when he invented the phone, we used to pay for fees?
And I'm agreeing with you about the horse and buggy. And I've been a long proponent of your point on that.
By the way, we're a long way away from St. Francis shooting.
Right. But you were talking about, government regulating and things like that. And, there was always this rule of keep to the right. Why did they do that? So they could allow more free transportation by organizing it. Instead of just having a massive crowd, nobody getting anywhere.
Right. And so that's what I say. to me, it does. See, when people were living out in the country, everybody was alone and we didn't have a lot of interaction. It wasn't a big deal. You raise your kid, you teach them how to shoot, how to hunt. Mm-hmm. We got a bunch of city people that don't know, and they don't know how to use a gun. So I have no problem sitting in the morning, to the class. Did you get a concealed carry? Do you have a concealed carry?
No.
Okay. I sat through a morning class, went out to a range, shooting at boxes.
Yeah, I took the class. I just never spent the money on the license. Yeah.
So to me, I like that. In fact, I have to tell a story. There was a lady there, and you remember the box? Oh, you didn't go out there. Oh, yeah, you did.
I did.
And you remember, was it 10 feet, this box?
It's real short.
Real short. But this lady, she could not hit that box.
God, yeah.
She could not hit that box. I hope they didn't give her I hope he didn't give her a certificate.
Yeah.
Because, if you can't hit the box 10 feet from you, then there's something wrong with you. But no. So I don't think it's a problem. So, for example, we're open carry now. Mm-hmm. I still renew my concealed carry for one week just to go to other states. Right. So I can go to other states if I get stopped, and the police always appreciate it. I think that always helps me whenever I get stopped for a traffic ticket. I handle and then,
that happens a lot, doesn't it, Eddie?
More than it should. And they tend to let me go. I think they respect the fact that I have that, and I'm open with them. So, no, but I think it's just good. It shows that I went that extra step to learn and to respect my weapon. And I was glad because there were certain things I didn't know. Mm-hmm. So it's like I learned to drive, and it helped me learn my gun and my weapon and stuff like that. So, I don't even know, how did we get here? We were on the St. Francis shooting, but anyway, no, I think I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that in the whole area of drugs and everything, there was a problem. Okay. I think there still is. So this fentanyl thing, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I was watching Tucker and some other shows this week, and Canada has just gone nuts. I don't know if you've heard where they've legalized drugs basically in British Columbia and certain provinces in Canada. Basically, it's just do whatever, what you're saying.
Well, yeah, my family, living in Minnesota, they would drive up just north of the Canadian border and just buy Tylenol 3, which is an opioid, over the counter. Ken has long had that policy. A very socialist
We're way
country.
Beyond Tylenol 3 now.
Right. But that's where the addiction starts.
Yeah.
And then you need more and more and more and more. So, this is, it's a tough deal. And I have a saying to myself that, about the war on drugs. Mm-hmm. Nancy Reagan came up, with Just Say No.
Yeah. Just Say No in our war on drugs. And I think, and everybody's made a joke about that we lost the war on drugs. And I always say, no, we didn't really lose the war on drugs. I don't believe we ever really fought the war on drugs.
Nixon started it. And it had to do with the generation gap, the culture war, the hippies. And in other words, we'd rather they sit on the front porch and have a six-pack with Dad than smoke a reefer.
Yeah, but we never really, I believe, fought the war on drugs, and one of the reasons is the money involved. Mm-hmm. It's so much money involved, and you can't get past the scripture. The love of money is the root of all evil. And DEA agents, Border Patrol agents, customs agents, you name them, they're not beyond the reach of money.
Sure.
And at some point, it's the carrot or the stick. You can take this money we're going to give you, or, we'll punish you. Yeah. And at some point, there's a breaking point. Yeah. And it's sad. It's tragic. It's the moral fabric of our nation has broken down. And it's not just our nation. You take communist countries, they've just done it a different way. The party is corrupt, but they're all within themselves and the common people. They try to keep them under control.
I do have good news in this.
You think?
Yes.
You think it's good news?
Joe Biden is not coming to Tulsa because, Eddie, it was black on black violence.
No, I know. Yeah, we knew that.
And
yeah.
more people were shot and killed in Chicago last week than in Tulsa.
Black people. More black people. Yeah, right.
There you go.
Oh, no, I know. Had it been a white person killing a black person, Joe would be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure.
And so would Al Sharpton.
Yeah.
And all the rest of the race baiters.
Yeah, it's obvious. That's where we are today.
Yeah.
And if people haven't figured that out, then I feel sorry for you, seriously.
And another observation, you know me as a mental health advocate, are we now going to take guns away from back surgery patients as a result of this? Yeah.
But see, this is where I'm on your side. You and I disagree greatly on the whole drug thing. Mm-hmm. We don't disagree on the need for better mental health services.
Yeah.
We have got to do something about it, and sometimes I think the two go hand in hand.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this to every legislature and you, Governor Stitt. I don't know of a single person in the Capitol who really puts it on the line in actions that go behind their words. They give lip service. They do nothing.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. We're in a bad state right now.
Because last year, I worked with legislatures. I begged them, please, let's do an interim study. I got Sheriff Regalado, Judge Pace, a bunch of people. We all went down there. Not a single bill was written this session. I don't mean passed. I mean not even written. And if I don't see a single lawmaker writing a bill or Governor Stitt in his State of the State even mentioning it, they don't care, Eddie. Yeah. They don't care.
I want to say something, too, right now, and we'll finish with this. Our constitutionalists, all you people that say you're for the Constitution, if you really care about the Constitution, if you really care about the First Amendment, you better protect the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. Because once they take care of the Second Amendment, then they'll go after the First, because you won't be able to protect the Second Amendment. Yep. The First Amendment without the Second. Because once they take everyone's guns, martial law, they'll be able to impose whatever they want. See, the reason the government wants to take your weapons from you is because they're afraid of you. Mm-hmm. They know they cannot impose their will upon the people as long as the people have the ability to rise up against them.
Yeah. And
as long as the people have the ability to rise up against them, at that point, they back down.
And here's the nexus. For the last couple of years, with the woke mob and the BLM, they said what? Speech is violence.
Yeah.
They believe they have a right to cut down the First Amendment because speech is violence.
But it's only one-sided speech.
Oh, yes.
That's the thing.
They're deciding.
See, the woke mob gets to say whatever they want and do whatever they want.
Right.
See, and here's the thing. The woke mob actually can be used at that point to take care of the other side. They can unleash Antifa. They can unleash that other side to break up any type of protest, and we won't be able to defend ourselves.
Right.
They can even say, oh, it's not us. We're not doing it. And they can just let Antifa go out and beat us to pulp, stab you, do whatever you want, and you can't protect yourself.
Yeah. I am completely for government defunding all postgraduate education or post-high school education. It's not our job to pay a grown adult to go to school further. That's their job. That's their career choice. That's their investment to make. And they'll probably make wiser investments if we weren't bailing out their student loans or subsidizing their tuition.
I agree. And it would cause schools to reevaluate their fees.
Yeah, because right now what we're doing in Oklahoma State Legislature is guilty of this, and the governor is they are on predatory behavior towards our private colleges, our Bible colleges, TU, ORU, OW, all of them, Rhema, because you're having to pay state taxes, which is then used to fund your competition so they can artificially lower their tuition below you. And instead, if we would take it, like Ryan Walters sat here.
Well, they're not. That's just it. They're not lowering their tuition below you. They're raising their tuition above you, but the net cost is well below you.
Well, because they are taking their state-appropriate legislation, funding, about $1 billion just about in Oklahoma, this session, and using it to pay everybody a portion of their tuition across the board, which means we're subsidizing millionaire families to go to OU, and we're taxing the poor single mom's groceries to pay for it.
Here's the other thing. OU has an endowment, I think it's at $23 billion.
Yeah.
Something like that. And they're not even in the top 10.
Yeah.
I think they're like 20-something. $23 billion. Mm-hmm. They could pay for every student that's going to OU. And it's become a matter of pride of who has the largest endowment.
Sure.
And it's like you and I starting an investment contest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
See who can get the most. And we're never spending it.
Yep.
So OU does not need the federal aid. They don't need your tuition. Yeah. They've got an endowment of $20-some billion. They could pay for every student at OU for the next 10 years.
Yeah. And what I would, and it'll never pass. It would never pass. But what I would love to see happen is the state legislature pass a law that says that the universities have to spend 25% of their endowments. Yeah. Oofda. Yeah. My thing that I'm advocating is simply take that money that we're paying, that nearly $1 billion, and turn it into a grant that goes to the student, that the student can then spend at any university, public or private, in Oklahoma, and it's a needs-based private, sliding scale. In other words,
separation of church and state. No, I'm just saying that's the argument that will be used.
What is the GI Bill funding? A veteran gets to spend the money on.
I know, but that's the argument you're here.
Take our federal government with Pell Grants. They're spending that at religious, any private university. And I'm just simply saying, if you're a poor person, this is a better deal for you because we're targeting the money on a sliding scale with students who have the biggest need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah. This is a good show.
The clock on the wall.
This is a good show today.
Says that's all.
Yeah. That's all.
Hey, everybody. It's been good. Thank you for tuning in again. And, hey, by the way, we've got a special this Wednesday.
Yes.
T.W. Shannon is going to be joining us.
Wednesday morning, right here.
Hey, have a great week. God bless everybody and stay safe, stay cool, not warm because it's hot out there. And thank you so much for tuning in. God bless and goodbye.